Thought is a maze. The maze of the mind is infinite turns and distraction. And thought represents the walls. You find in stillness all these thoughts telling you, oh, I have to do this, I should clean that. And when you sit in stillness, you realize that the thoughts are completely irrelevant. I found that oftentimes we have all these thoughts and conversations, and what they show me is my disbelief in that what I would say naturally is perfect. And in planning this, I create attachment to a certain perception that I want people to see. And in doing this, I deny the true perfection of who I am. Thoughts are linked with deep-seated fears and ambitions. And one of the things that has come forth is that in sitting with those emotions, the thoughts tend to dissipate. First, they try to distract. Then they try to govern. And then they slowly just fade. And as they fade, inspiration comes. And with that inspiration, you get this certainty, this feeling of rightness with that inspiration. It rings a specific vibration with your heart. And so sitting in stillness, especially in emotional turmoil, gives you this superpower of peace. One of the things that I found with this stillness is a realization of specific attachments to fears. And one of my favorite acronyms of, well, the only acronym I know of fear, but one of my favorite acronyms is false evidence appearing real. And one of the beliefs that I've participated in is that you have hidden a piece of your soul behind everything you're afraid of. And so what I like to do is I like to open those doors. And I've never been disappointed in doing that. And I've never really been let down. Yes, there have been a lot of explosive experiences from doing that, but I've always survived and I've always benefited, and I've always had a deeper understanding of myself. And by experiencing these fears, other fears seem less powerful, less real. And in doing this, you start opening new pathways of life. We are governed by our subconscious internal beliefs, and those show up as reactive fears. And when you sit with the demand for reaction, what you slowly do is you ease through the walls of your current path, your current trajectory. And in this sense, the turmoil that arises from life becomes the blessing of new experiences. And in following these blessings, you begin to be able to identify all turmoils as blessings, all unease as opportunity. And as you identify these things as such, they more readily appear as so. One of the things that I'm reminded of is a conversation that I had about the devil. And in prayer, I was with some people and they said, protect us from the enemy. And I found that interesting. And I asked, well, who is the enemy? And they said, oh, it's Satan. I'm like, all right. And then I sat with that for a moment. And I realized that every illusion of an act of Satan in my life has led me closer to God and deepening my understanding of God, a gift that I cherish most. And I then wondered, how could I call that entity an enemy when they have given me one of my greatest gifts? Every struggle, every downfall, every crazy experience that has had a negative feeling, a feeling of imprisonment, a feeling of helplessness, has been in fact amazing gifts to my understanding, my connection with humanity, and my experience. And so, say somebody gave you some of the greatest gifts of your life, how could you call them enemy? And it reminds me that God in infinite power and essence cannot have an enemy. And as we, as human, are representations of God, made in his image type thing, how can we have enemies? Which leads me to the thought of judgment of others. I've had a pretty long journey about judgment. I've had a very mechanical mind. And what judgment does is it pretends falseness and it blinds us of our own shortcomings. As all are mirrors to our own experience, when we judge, we point the finger and we say, oh, you've done this wrong. But when we sit with the vibration and metaphor of what we judge, we realize our own shortcomings to our own divinity. And with judgment, we deny our own success and our own growth. We prolong the process. What I've found is that with intense judgment, when you sit in stillness with that, you can find some deep, unknown fears within yourself. And with sitting with those fears, you unlock your greater potential. I trust that if you've seen this, it is raining peace and ability in your heart. Thank you for sharing time with me.